Hello, everyone, and welcome to the introduction of the Twitter course. So in this video, we are actually going to go into the architecture for this app. This is a really big app, so I want to break down how we're going to approach this and all the components to this application. So we are going to start with our database. Our database is going to hold all of the data that we need for the app. It's going to hold our user info, for instance, the first name, last name, email, password, all the profile information for the user. And then it's also going to hold things like posts, messages, threads, etc. So the database is really going to be the core of the applications, where essentially it is what makes Twitter Twitter. So the API is going to handle the logic. So accessing the database, it's going to also run logic and make sure that we are accessing it correctly. For instance, the API will handle login. So the mobile app or the web app will send up a username and a password. It'll go up to the API. The API will take that username and password, send it into the database, or check the database to see if it is actually there. And then if it is, then it will come back all of the user data. The user data will be here in the API, and then we will send a response back to the web app or the mobile app, and we will say essentially success. We found the user data, and here it is. Same thing with the mobile app as well. So that's essentially how that works. Same thing with create account. We send the information. It runs the logic here in the API, interacts with the database, and then the API sends us back a response based on what we sent it. So it's a lot. The database we're going to be doing with SQL Server Management Studio and SQL Server. At the API, we will be using ASP.NET Core. And then the web app, we're going to be using ASP.NET Core as well, and Vue.js, HTML, CSS, etc. And then the mobile app, we're going to be using Xamarin Forms. So maybe in later videos, after we finish this course, I might go into how we can actually remake this using Flutter or Native or whatever. But for now, I think it's safe to just keep everything in the .NET stack. That way, you guys get a more full understanding of everything we can do with C# and .NET. So, you're probably wondering now, how are we going to start? And that's a good question. This is a massive application. So the first thing we are actually going to do is, unlike most teachers who will essentially go over the database, and then once they're finished with the database, go over the API and then connect the two. Same thing with the web app, make the web app and then connect the three, or the mobile app and then connect the three. What we are actually going to do is we are going to make the bare minimum for the database. So we're going to make just one user, some basic user information, and then we're going to actually get that stood up, put on a server, and then same thing with this API. We are going to make just one endpoint for login, and then it'll grab the user information, of course. But once we make that endpoint, we are going to get that set up. It's pretty easy to get these two set up, but if you don't know how to do it, it's not super intuitive. So, and then same thing with the web app. We're going to make a incredibly basic login screen, and then you will see how all of this is connected. How all of this is connected, and that's very important, especially starting out, because being able to understand how a database and an API and a web app or a mobile app is connected, it's very, very important, and that's essentially full stack development. somebody who can go into the web app, fix the web app or update it. Same thing with the API, and same thing with the database. So we are going to get a taste of all of it. So once we do that, once we create the very basic bare minimum on each side of it, then we're going to go more in depth. So then we'll actually go into the database, start making all the tables, and get that set up. Same thing with the API. We're going to get all the endpoints set up, or for the most part, good to go. And then we will finish up with the web app. And then once we're done with the web app, we will move over to the mobile app and get that set up. So again, first section is really going to be bare minimum, tying everything together. And then once we're comfortable with that, then we're going to go to each section and really make it into the application we want. So there's a lot here, but again, I think this will be a good approach because I really want to show you guys how to connect all of it without it being too overwhelming. So again, we'll use Azure to do this. We'll use Azure Portal. And of course, if you sign up with Azure Portal, it's free, at least for the first year, I believe. But even then, we're actually going to create our SQL server, and we're going to stand up our own API, and we're going to do it very inexpensively. I'll show you guys how to do it very inexpensively so that even after the first year, you're only getting charged maybe like 10-20 bucks a month. So yeah, we're gonna go into that, and again, that's minimum. Of course, if you have a lot more users, traffic, etc., then that'll go up. But I really want to make sure you guys can see how to do this for very little, and how you can actually get set up. This is a great portfolio project. You can really do some crazy stuff like make your own website, and do all sorts of fun things with it. So I'm really excited about this. I hope you guys are too. So in the next video, we're going to go over just basic SQL Server Management Studio, SQL, getting SQL Server on our computer, and we're going to be rolling with that. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. But remember, this will be only Windows, unfortunately. Because with Mac you have to set up with Docker and all of that, so it's really not too much different on Mac, but for complexity and time, we're going to start with Windows and we're just going to move forward from there. I might show you guys how to do it with Mac later, but I figured the majority of you will be using Windows, since you're using Windows technology. So if you guys have any questions, let me know, but you should start seeing the next few videos here pretty shortly. So thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.